Okay, so I guess we're gonna go over macro, and this is gonna be like kind of a boring conversation because it's gonna be very fundamental and very slow, and y'all will definitely benefit more from playing the game. But the reason that we're here is just to kind of get a vague idea of some of the central ideas to what you're trying to accomplish in Mordhau, right? And in regards to like macro. So that's kind of what we're going to be going over is going to be central and fundamental ideas to achieve a goal, right? And so what that can look like is going to be with positional play. So in Mordhau, there are 5 people on each team. For skirmish exclusively, oh yeah, not even for hardpoint, there's also 5 people. And if we space everybody out evenly, right, we can draw this up as a even fight because there is no positional advantage between each team, right? So I will actually, there's actually a really cool program for this. I'm not going to use this app. I'm going to use something else. Hold on. Yeah. So if we line everybody up in an even line, we'll spread everybody out just for the sake of uh, consistency. Everybody kind of looks like this. And we're going to say that all of these players are equal in skill, just for the sake of the argument, even though that's never going to be the case. Right now, we're not going to be thinking about mechanical influences. We're just going to be talking about positional ones. So, and positional ones are ultimately in your understanding. Positional understandings and your ability to wrap your head around them is ultimately what we're going to be focusing on today. So I wouldn't do not even
a line fight then.
This is what would devolve into like a 2-1-2 or what would devolve into a 3-2. And so when I say these numbers, I mean like 2 players or like 3 players, right? When I'm referencing these numbers, I'm talking about the number of players. So 2-1-2 would be these 2 players and these 2 players, and then these this group of players right here in the center, right? So that's what that looks like. Or a 3-2 would be a 2v2 that happens over here, and like a 3v3 that happens on this side of the map. Very, very blanket. But sometimes 3-2s turn into 2-1-2s because these players will try to like go this way, and this player will stop them, and so
they'll help out.
Right, and so that's like an example. But essentially, what I really want to break down for y'all is that this fight is even. There is no positional advantage for either team. Because everybody can see each other. There is no threat of anybody wrapping one another, right? There is no threat of somebody being overwhelmed with pressure because there's no 2 teammates that are stacked on top of one another, right? So if one player is ever in front of one player like this, this is completely even, right? On paper. Right? It's never always going to be, like if we're talking about practicality, it's never going to be completely even. But in for the sake of macro, this is an even fight right here. This fight is even.
Theory, right, of course.
Right. In theory, this is always going to be equal because it's just one equals 1. So now if this was a 2v1, right, this would not be equal. This would be winning for red team. Okay, so that we're going to start getting into how we can apply pressure with numbers, right? So since this would be even, we can start thinking about, okay, well, how do we get more players to one side of the field to stack pressure? And so then you start looking at, okay, how do we use our movement and how do we use our ability to take initiative? Is everyone on the same page about what initiative is? Do we all understand that? We're all cool with that? I'm gonna outline it anyways, just in case.
Yeah, could you go ahead and just talk about that for me?
So initiative is going to be priority over who's swinging first. So this has more to do with micro, or I guess micro. So like if everybody just kind of walked up to the field like this, and nobody swung first, then nobody would have initiative. But like if everybody on red team wound up first, then they would have initiative, right?
Gotcha. So this is just your initial engage.
Right, initiative. Well, initiative is exchanged, right? It's not. It's never something that.
Yeah, gotcha.
It's on engage. It's most important. You're on the right track though. On engage, it's very important. So, and now in this initiative, initiative means very little to either side of the field, right? So like if this guy gets initiative, it's not going to help this guy over here, right?
Okay. Yep.
This fight and this fight are totally separate. So the way that we can go about fixing that, or the way that we can circumvent that, is we can just play together, right? So then you start looking at the opposite end. This is called split macro, right? Because everybody is split. This is what this kind of looks like, or spread macro. And then the opposite of that is going to be grouping macro. And there's a couple different variations of this. But this is called wumbo because it makes a W, right?
Oh, that's
Like that.
cool. Huh.
This is called W formation. So essentially, the goal of W is to push a side. I can't collectively like group them together, so you'll just kind of have to like
Bear with you while you
bear
move
with
them
me
one
here.
by one. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm not gonna move them all one by one, but I'm gonna hope that you can visualize it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yep.
This group of players are stacking together in order to use their initiative and push a side with pressure, right? So that's where you kind of start getting into using your momentum and using your initiative in order to stack pressure on top of one another. So like what that would look like is these three players here would be they would be using something like a greatsword or like an XZ or pullhammer or whatever, something that just is like oppressive, and they're going to run into this group of players over here, and they're going to try to kill them faster than these players over here can wrap them, right? Or that these players can engage. So that's
Okay.
kind of this is where grouping
Lightsaber
macro.
those two. Gotcha. Trying
Yeah,
to isolate it.
exactly right. So you're trying to isolate a one player or a group of players in order to get a pick, or isolate some sort of 1v2 or like positional advantage. This is really aggressive macro, and it doesn't really leave a lot of room for error. So that's why grouping macro isn't really seen that much anymore. Well, there's a variety of reasons why grouping macro isn't seen very much anymore, but the biggest one is that it's very hard. It's not straightforward, and there's a very small handful of players that do it consistently and that are good at it. So this is what you see a lot of right now. Um, and a lot of why the reason that people do this is what I'm about to tell you is like super important. This is like extremely fundamental. So I don't know how familiar y'all are with circle theory. Have y'all heard that before? Do y'all know what circle theory is? Have y'all
Never
heard that
heard of
term?
it.
Okay. So this applies to like real life strategy too, even with like I don't know if y'all have ever read like Art of War or anything like that, or if y'all have ever if y'all know anything about like strategy games or anything like that, or like
Circle theory is the fundamental strategy for ice hockey too.
yeah, right. I mean, it applies to a lot of different things in life. So this is not like a very nuanced concept or anything. But essentially, I'm gonna isolate. Just gonna make this a 2v2. So I'm gonna throw all these people in here. Because 2v2s are where you can really break things down very simple, and you can make them. You can kind of isolate these concepts in a vacuum. So right now, and if I just flash this and froze the frame here, this is an equal position. There's an equal distance between these players. These players are equal in distance, very equal. Nothing super out of the ordinary here. But if I were to change the position to look like this, who is winning in this position? Red team or blue team?
Blue.
Okay.
Blue.
Blue team. Blue team is winning, but the reason that blue team is winning is very important, and that is because this person cannot see anything, right? And I really want to hammer that into your heads is that if you cannot see everything, you are objectively going to be worse if you do not have initiative. So on paper, right, this guy is worse because he cannot see this way, he cannot see this way and this way at the same time, right? He can't do it. So he is going to get hit in the back. And that is kind of the goal of having somebody in this position is that you can hit them in the back. So this also translates to 2v1s like super, super well, right? Because if you know that your goal is to isolate somebody in this position, if you are blue team, you know that you have achieved this position, but now you have to capitalize on it. And now you have to turn it into going from like a winning position to a one position. You have to hit this person in the back, right? That is super, super important because a lot of players will get this position on blue team. They will get here, but then they won't know what to do when they have it. So it doesn't last a very long time either. You only have so many tempo and so many initiatives to successfully maintain this before this guy takes a parry or two and walks out of it. And so you have to like be able to find yourself in this position and then capitalize on it. And as you will see these positions come up, you will know what to do, and it will just become muscle memory. So whenever somebody gets in this position, you just want to aim for their back, right? So either you are, if this person, let's say this person in the center right here is looking this way, then this guy's going to hit him in the back, and then vice versa. If he's looking this way, then this guy's going to hit him in the back, right? And if you can tell that he's gambling parries and he's just 360 spinning, then you can start morphing him and then waiting for him to waste his parry and hit him. And like that's like objectively winning. There is no way that this guy what
if he
wins
just, like,
at all.
S-keyed though and just like switched, and then his homie comes in? You know, like.
What do you mean? In what
If
direction?
he just
He went this way?
S-keys out of that, so he just backs off.
Sure.
Just goes like directly
Sure.
to the south of where your mouth is.
Yeah.
To the south. And
Yeah,
then
so if he
they
goes this
start
way.
switching. Yeah, right.
So in order to start switching, he would have to have initiative, right?
I guess that's
and so
true.
this goes into my next point.
Yeah.
This goes into my next point. This is also very important. If this red guy in the center here has initiative, this is actually not losing for this guy either, right? Because he can swing, and you cannot interrupt his swing while he has initiative, right? So if one of these players gives him a parry and the other player does not parry it, so like if this guy over here feeds this guy in the center, and then his teammate was not paying attention and does not parry it, then this is no longer losing because this guy has a tempo and he can use his momentum. He can carry himself. Yeah, he has broken your control on this. What this is called a sandwich. He's broken your control on the sandwich, right? So that's why it's important to not only be paying attention to the central guy, but to also be paying attention to each other. And so I've kind of rambled a little bit. But I want to really hammer down the idea of circle theory, right? That if you get an edge, like a lot of the reasons that we fight in Mordhau are going to be for edges, or they're going to be to wrap something. Because what you are looking for is you are trying to get behind your opponent. Because they cannot parry what they cannot see.
Yeah.
So whenever you are fighting for edges, you are going to be swinging on the side that you are wrapping on, right? So like if this blue team member right here is wrapping he's wrapping on his right side. He came out of his spawn and then went to his right.
Right.
He needs to be swinging on his right side in order to wrap around the person that he is trying to engage on. And then this guy, his goal is going to be to support him in that endeavor. By helping him take initiative. It's never going to be this easy. I would like to preface that. Like it's never.
Right,
no one's just ever going to
but
let you
this
wrap
is
them.
Not execution, which every fight is obviously going to be different, but
Right.
the same blanket theories and strategies can be applied to every fight.
Right, and so yeah, exactly. And whenever if blue team if they get a position that looks like this, then they're just objectively winning, right? So that's kind of like these are some of the central ideas that you're going to be seeing a little bit more in these team fights. And there should be alarm bells going off on your head when you cannot see everything in front of you. Because whenever you don't have information, you cannot react to it. Same, like it's the same principle. Like if you are on the inside, this guy being here, I'm going to refer to that as the inside because that's what it is. He's inside of these two players, right?
Right.
If you are on the inside, you do not have information to react to, so you are on a timer essentially, right? And you will die eventually. It's only a matter of time. It's not possible to react to information you do not have. So that's where like being positionally minded is very important, especially whenever you're getting new to the game, whenever you're like getting better at the game and you're new to it. It will help you avoid situations where you feel confused because sometimes the engagements can be a mess and they can look really ugly because everyone's just kind of like holding W into one another.
Yeah.
And it does not feel good, and it can be often very volatile because you are trying to just like throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. But this is objectively like a very sound way to think about Mordhau. Since you're not playing with ranged weapons, you can't engage people from a distance. You have to engage them up close. And since they have an invincibility shield that they can pull up with their parry, being the invincibility shield, you have to, if you want a positional advantage, you have to hit behind them. You have to be somewhere where they cannot parry, on paper at least, right? There are going to be times where you may not ever have to wrap any team ever, and you can just stand in front of them and kill them because you are just that much better than them. That is very possible, and that happens all the time.
But the skill level might not be there, so you're just looking for positional advantage to then take control of the battlefield and then focus them down one by one.
Yeah. So what the goal should be to look for a pick, right? Because if we just removed player, I don't know if anybody in here plays chess or if they understand like anything about that. But in chess, it's the same concept, right? Like if there are 8 pieces on the board, and both players have 8 pieces, but then like I take a free piece, then all I need to do is just trade every other piece, and I will have one
You're
more
up.
piece than you do at the end. I'm always right, and so it's the same principle in Mordhau too. If red team gets a pick on blue team, they're just winning. Like objectively, they're just winning because this will always be a 2v1, and 2v1s are objectively losing because they will eventually be in a position where they cannot react to information given to them.
And I think that's where we really need the most practice because we're not usually dying on engage. I'm not seeing that happen a lot, but we are getting really weakened on our initial engage. And part of that is from the positioning, but like I said, I think a lot of that is just from not being
It comes down to mindset too.
executioning, right? So not actually practicing the maps and the different formations. So that's why I was hoping maybe tonight, having enough people here, we might be able to do like a 4v4 or maybe break off into like 2v1s later on, something like that. Because I feel like the execution would help us a lot.
I
At least on
encourage
the
y'all to
comp side.
2v2. Yeah, I encourage y'all to 2v2 and in-house 2v2 and 3v3 like a lot because that is going to be where you're going to see the most improvement
I think so.
in a vacuum at least. And you also don't need 5 players to do it. And you don't even have to do it with each other. You can just do it. You can do it against like other people in the comp scene and then
Yeah,
you can
that
do it
is a
that
good
way.
point. That is a good point.
So I encourage y'all to, if y'all want to do a buddy system where you're trying to improve with one teammate exclusively, that way you're building synergy and you don't have to get used to a bunch of different teammates just to start with. You can do that, or if you don't, like it's also fine. There's not like a right or wrong way to go about that. Just do it. Makes the most sense for you.
Beneficial, I think.
Does anybody have any questions over what I just went over in regards to circle theory? Or are we all kind of on the same page about that?
We're on the same page, I think.
Okay. I don't think this is very complicated, but if anybody needs something to be re-explained or if somebody needs something to be reiterated, I have no problem doing that. Like I said, this is kind of boring, I know. But this is like where you're building the muscle memory and you're building the pattern recognition to capitalize on positional advantages. And like you won't even have to think about it at some point. So you'll only have to have this hopefully you only have to have this conversation once. And then you can just apply it. Obviously, like that's never going to be the case. Like I'm sure y'all are going to have questions at some point, and you might forget things, or you might like not.
Sometimes I just
retain
see a
things.
certain player, my brain just turns off.
Motley.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's completely okay. It's very normal.
Motley.
What's up?
One thing that's helped me a lot with my teammates, particularly my edge and wing guys, is going over the direct 2v2 on like the wall side wing. What a lot of people don't seem to understand is that you don't really want to push past your teammate too much, but rather draw the guy back. I would
It depends.
say
I don't know. I don't know.
I would say go over. I would say put a 2v2 near wall side and go over roughly what you should be trying to do if you're edge guy versus if you're the supporting edge guy.
Yeah, that might be interesting.
That
So
that right there is where I find most of low tier engages. Most of low tier engages are decided by those two right there, not the middle guy. It's weird. It's
but that's a mechanical issue. That's a mechanical issue. I feel like more than a positional. Because like if we're talking about a 2v2 like this where it's isolated, then the response is going to be different than if it's a 5v5, right? Because you can't do the same things. Like this guy can't go this way if it's a 5v5. So I'm more than happy to go over both. But
more like the instant blow up of the 2 with 2 hit to kill weapons.
Sure. So it's an engage thing is what you're talking. It doesn't really so much have to do. Okay, so engage, yeah. Engage is important too. There's 2 things on engage that you need to make sure that like are happening every single time that are consistent. You need to make sure you're winding up like every single time. It does not matter like how far away you are. It does not matter like ideally you wind up in range, but you don't. None of you are super familiar with the ranges yet to know like the range of every weapon and the range of your momentum. So you'll just have to practice it, and you're gonna die a lot, and it's gonna suck. But that is like you cannot not wind up. If you do not input a swing, you are forfeiting initiative, and that's never good. That is like objectively bad every time. You do not want to forfeit initiative, because then you do not have an opportunity to fight for an advantage. You are reacting at that point, and you don't want to be the one reacting. So that is important. You need to wind up every single time. And you can do it with a morph, you can do it with an overhead, you can do it. Ideally, you do not do it with horizontals on line fights like this, so you don't like hit your teammates.
sketch out Thrax in my horizontals, yeah.
Ideally, this guy only winds up on his right side. This guy only winds up on this side of his swing, so he does not input on his teammate. And ideally, you're not using your A and D key that much. You're not doing this a lot, so you're not. And a lot of what that is derivative of is your dual footwork. Like if you are trying to, if this guy makes a swing on this side and you want to get away from it, it is intuitive that you move left, but you can't do that because this guy's here.
Sure.
So you cannot mitigate a swing the same way in team play that you can in duels. Does everybody understand what I mean when I say mitigate? Are we all on the same page about that?
Yeah, so
Sure.
I remember going through mitigation training when you originally came in here. So I remember that, but I think
I can
we
touch on
all
it.
have a pretty decent understanding. If you just
Could
want to
you
briefly go over it, though.
explain mitigation, please?
Sure, yeah. So mitigation essentially it can be in a lot of different forms. Like chambering is mitigation, jumping is mitigation, distance is mitigation, CFTP is mitigation. Um, Another there are artificial forms of mitigation, right? Like your position, right? So if I am holding W and this guy winds up and I hold S, then that is mitigation. I am making things easier for me to give myself more time to think about my offense, right? So that's all that mitigation is. I'm just making the game easier by playing defense, right? Right. And a lot of what that comes down to is like preventing them from hitting you, right? So like any way that you can kind of think of that, any way that you can think of somebody trying to hit you and then you preventing it, that's mitigation, right? There are different kinds of mitigation, and you can't do the same mitigation in team play versus duels, right? So like I'm kind of like ranting a little bit, but this is important. I just don't know where in your priority list this kind of lies. I don't know what y'all struggle with exclusively, and if I had clips, it would be a little bit easier for me to like touch on things that you struggle with as a
Do you
team.
want me to show you? Like I said, I wasn't in the most recent comp match, but I can bring up the VOD for
Sure.
you.
Yeah, bring up
That
the
still
VOD
has
or
like
send it to me
Ryan
and I'll
was there.
we can go over this VOD. I'm not gonna touch on everything. I will every now and then. Hold on, let me. I will go over some brief ideas or macro on certain maps and like good like simple things to practice. Okay, this is fine. So like if y'all are blue team, right?
Mhm.
I'm sure you can kind of tell if we drew like a rough line around red team right now. Actually, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna draw this. Actually, no, I'm not. This isn't worth talking about. But if we just took like a snapshot of this, I want y'all to tell me who's objective, like positionally, who is winning and who's losing. Right here. Okay. Who does this look better for? Who does this look? Okay.
Red.
Okay. Does it make sense why red team looks
Blue,
better
I
here?
think. No,
Honestly, I think blue could take.
blue looks better
You're
because
taking center, and then
there's
you
like a
can go
2v1
left
on that
or
one red
right.
guy.
Okay.
There's a
That's good.
2v1.
Yes.
Blue,
Got
2v1.
That's good.
back, so
But you
Okay.
have to have that like spatial awareness if you are taking the center to know, hey, I need to help here, or hey, my team's needing me here.
So it all depends. Y'all
don't
are
know.
none of you are wrong. Y'all are all on the right track. So objectively, this is what's happening. Okay, there is a 2v1 being engaged here. There's a 2v2 happening on the left, and there is a 2v1 happening on the right. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the 2v2 is an even fight on paper, right? So this is never going to be the central like focus of where you are going to be winning or losing.
Right.
If you win your 2v2, that's great, or if you lose it, that's fine. But like this is not the focus of where the epitome of winning and losing positions are going to happen. It's going to be here and here, right? So you have committed to a 2v1 and you are trading your teammate in order to get the 2v1 and then hopefully get to this 2v2 before they do, right? So that is what you've committed to as blue team.
Right. That makes sense.
So Thrax should know in this position that he is going to die if they commit to this 2v1. If Thrax is in this position, he knows that he is getting traded. Because he knows that he doesn't have two teammates over here. If he's paying attention, he knows, or it's called. This would be a good time to make a call out that these two players here. I'm taking a 2v1 in the middle guy, so that should tell everybody else I am not the play right now. the play is this. This is the win condition. This is your condition of win right here.
Right.
This 2v1. And winning it quickly or moving to a bigger fight is going to be your win condition. So that tells Thrax, okay, I need to pull into one of these chokes to live longer, and I need to not get wrapped, and I need to take initiative and try to stay alive longer than this guy does. If this 2v1 takes place. And this guy right here, his win condition right now is going to be probably these backs, or he's going to go over here, but I think that this guy's best position is going to be to get over here, right? And try to kill these people. So what this looks like right now, this is just kind of how I want y'all to start thinking about these positions is how can I capitalize on my win condition before they capitalize on theirs, right? And how is my win condition going to be so much better than theirs that it's going to be winning every time, right? And so 2v1s are a really great way to do that, especially if you're the one initiating them like this. This is great from blue team. I like that they're initiating this because it's happening before this is happening, right? So on paper, like if this last 3 turns of tempo and this last 3 turns of tempo, this one's going to win first because they started first.
Right.
So that gives blue team more time to go to a bigger fight. So after they get this pick, they should be going to this 2v2 because then they will guarantee more picks in an up fight, right? You never want to go to the other fight. You never want to go to like, if these two win, they don't want to go over here to the 1v2 because they are guaranteed to like their teammate's going to die and then they're going to be in another 2v1. And then this is still a 2v2, right? But if these two people get a pick here and then they go over here, then they're guaranteed 2 picks because they have 2 teammates and 2 teammates is a 4v2. Guarantee that this guy is still standing here, but that's not going to happen. I'm kind of rambling, but you get the idea. You get the pick and you go to the bigger fight. That's my point. Gotcha. Super important. You get this pick here and then you go over here. So I like this. So I'm going to play this and I'm going to see what happens. Oh, one thing I'd like to touch on. The one thing I don't like about this for blue team is that the 2 on the left do not know that they are not in a position to play for a win right now. These 2 players do not know that this is happening. So they do not know that they do not need to. They can fight here because they know that it's even, but they need to know that there is going to be a man loose somewhere. So in contraband specifically, this is a contraband specific idea. They can back up into these chokes that like this choke right here, like all of these chokes back here, they're parallel on this side of the map too. So they can just hold S and fall back into this choke, or they can move to the right side of the map and help their teammate. That's what they can do if they're on the same page that they know that this is a win condition. Does that make sense?
Sure.
They just need to not get hit by this guy, right? That's what they need to do. They need to either fight over here to where they can see everything, and Thrax needs to do the same thing. Thrax needs to move to the right so that he can see everything. And wait for his.
He doesn't go through and maybe rat and come out and, you know.
Right. As long as this player right here, this is what I'm thinking happens. That this player here does not know about this guy. Is what I'm thinking happens. So I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna see what happens. Immediately it turns his back to him.
Exactly.
Doesn't see it. This guy should have hit this guy in the back a lot, very hard.
Choose to go for that. He decided to, yeah.
Right. So this was really winning for red team, and then they blundered and they just went to this 2v1, which is a really dumb idea because now this is a 2v2. You just turned a winning fight, a winning 2v1. This guy had a free back into a 2v2. Really dumb. Really bad.
The odds, yeah.
Right. Made it completely even, and then let's see what happens here. Okay. Blue team gets picks. Both. Yeah. Everybody wins their duel. Everybody wins their duel. Huge. This guy right here, this is like the hardest position. I'm gonna go back to my okay, I'm gonna draw this up on contraband. Actually, no, we'll use it in mosh pit because this is like I'm gonna draw it on contra to show you what I mean. But it's all the same shit. This is all spread macro. It's all the same shit. So this is what they were doing actually. I'm gonna draw like the same shit. Like this is exactly what they were doing. This is called 2-1-2. Okay, they have 2 players on this side, 2 players on this side, 1 guy in the middle. Right. Okay, and contraband's really good for that kind of thing because there's chokes to like line everything up, right? So it's pretty easy to 2-on-2 on this map. And you can do that too if you want. It's kind of what y'all were doing, except this guy went here, right? But that's kind of irrelevant. Fuck, what was my point? Why did I say that?
We were talking about the position of Bizzle.
Oh, yes. Okay. So these positions right here, this position right here, and this position right here are the hardest positions to play in these fights. Does anybody have an idea of why that might be? Pillars. They have to watch 3 people. They have to watch 3. They have to watch this player, and this player. This guy only has to watch this player and this player. Right? This guy has to. This middle player also has to watch this player, and this player. but he has distance. Like this player is going to be the closest to these three, right? In regards to like forming
Okay,
this little like
sure.
C,
That makes
right?
sense.
So this guy also has influence over where to make the play, right? As the middle player, like that's kind of what you want to do is you kind of want
Inciting
to influence.
factor.
You want to incite your initiative and enforce. Like if you tell them to ideally, well, that's objectively wrong. I'm not gonna say that, but you get some leeway to make decisions on where you want to go. And like if these players are being super aggressive here, then you can like fall into these chokes and they want to push through. Then this is really good for blue team because they have to give up their backs, or red team has to give up backs, and then you just kind of go this way and mop
Basically,
up.
you're trying to turn the 2-1-2 into a 3-2.
You want to turn the 2-1-2 however you want. This is just the setup. The execution is kind of like relative, right? The
I guess
execution is relative to what they do.
yeah, that kind of goes through the specific fight. Yeah, that's a little.
Right. So, yeah, this is just like the setup, and it just puts this player in a position to move this way or this way. And we can go left or right, and then puts this player in a position to he can leave. He can if this guy commits this way and then he goes this way, this player can just leave. This can, and I guarantee you there are going to be teams at your level right now that are going to take this 2v1. This is an edge 2v1. It's really bad. You don't take these. This guy should always leave and follow this guy. Because this is a 4v3, like I said, going like the numbers thing. This is objectively winning for blue team. There's just more of them, so they're gonna win. This red team will get 1 pick and blue team will get 3. So math doesn't check out.
Okay, yeah.
Math doesn't check out, and you can kind of like you can like I said, Mordhau is not very nuanced, and you can kind of just like do the math on a lot of these things. Like, okay, we remove 3 players here, and then remove 1 player on blue team here. This is a 4v2 at the end of it, so this is just objectively winning for blue team, right? So that's why you don't do that. It all kind of boils down to numbers on paper anyways. Like, I guarantee you, y'all are going to fuck up a lot of 4v2s, and y'all are going to lose a lot of 3v2s, and you're going to lose a lot of winning fights, and it happens at the highest level, so do not feel bad about it. It happens, but as long as you understand that this is objectively winning, then that's okay. That's kind of what I hope you take away from something today, is that you get an idea of what positions look right or what should kind of feel right, and you know or have a vague idea of numbers, and you get like a better understanding of circle theory and what a winning position looks like. So I'm just kind of using your NACL match as like a buffer, like some examples to express that point. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Okay, if there's anything that y'all should take away from tonight, it should be you should kind of have an idea of what a winning position looks like, and you should have an idea of how to execute on a winning position, right? With numbers or whatever. But that's kind of like that's the goal, because you can apply those anywhere. I could sit here and teach you like the complications of steady contraband decision making in macro, but that would be a huge waste of your time. Huge waste of your time, because you're not getting an idea of how to play on other maps as well. All right, let's start this map over. So y'all are doing good right now. Y'all are farming. All right. So I'm gonna pause it here. This is like, now that y'all have kind of gotten a vague idea of what a good position kind of looks like, I'm sure y'all can look at this and cringe a little bit, because like there's not a lot of like coherence between what it's not very organized. Like, you know, they're kind of just all over the place. The red team seems to be like they have a vague idea of what they want to do, right? Like they put two players on this side, 2 players on this side, 1 player in the middle. They're trying to play as a group over here. They're trying to play as a group over here. Y'all are kind of falling into place too, so it's not like y'all aren't reacting to it, which is good. But like if we look at blue team here, this side can't see what's happening over here, so it really only takes 1 swap from this middle. I wish this thing wasn't in the way. This swap, I hope y'all can see what I mean. Like this middle guy here, if he just takes 1 repost and throws it into blue team, y'all are just dead.
Yeah,
he's got backs. He's got huge backs, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's 0 you can do about it because you can't see it. So y'all are just losing.
And this is what I'm saying. This is why this training is actually very important for us, because going into this, obviously we have done a VOD review previously with Thrax, but going in and talking about these different formations, how you said like initiative is huge. They have the red team has all the initiative of the match here. I mean, you can see
Pretty
they're in
much.
formation. We're just reacting to their formations, and yeah, we are kind of falling in, like you said. We have gotten lucky, but because they have blundered a few times. However, I mean, the red team does have the initiative here, even though I feel like we have won these last couple matches. It may not have been deserved.
Well, it's not really a matter of desert. Winning something being
Well,
objective is
a
never
win is a win,
a
obviously.
win is a win,
You know,
and that is
I'll take
like
it, but like,
you take dubs where you can get them because
but
like
like
I
you can
guarantee
tell
you.
strategically they already have this kind of knowledge, and this is obviously we're all new to comp, so obviously
Sure.
this is something where even myself, I had no idea of this going into this training here tonight. So this is
Well,
why
I
I think
think
it's so beneficial, Motley. This is why I think it's really
right.
helpful.
I think it's super beneficial, and I have a feeling what somebody did is I think that somebody that is less experienced or that has like less time coaching in this game was probably helping red team, and they probably told them to just 2-1-2 and to
Mhm.
just like set up like this, but they didn't understand why they were doing it. And the whole point of 2-1-2 is that you were spreading out and that you are looking for this. Like they have completely turned the backs on for this guy right here in the middle to make a positional advantage, right?
Exactly.
This is red team's win condition right now, and blue team doesn't have a win condition because there's nothing to hit, right? Um, so like I said, you also don't have to 2-2, but I mean, like if red team doesn't understand what they're looking for, they just know like that they're supposed to kind of be doing this, and like it's not beneficial for anything. So that's kind of what I'm hoping that y'all take away from this, is that y'all can like get better at making individual decisions. Hold on, what the fuck just happened? Hold on. Okay, Dragoon. Hold on. Wait. This is a sin. Hold on. I'm gonna reference my circle theory again. Okay. So Dragoon, this guy right here. Can you see my mouse? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. This guy right here, Dragon Loot's about to move in between him. He's about to lose vision, and this guy doesn't catch it. Kind of a sin. Not that you would have known that at the time, but hopefully you get the idea that it makes a swap. It's huge. But he continues the route, and I think Thorax probably. Wow, this is hectic. A lot could happen right now. I don't know. I think this guy could just afford to like throw any swing at this guy, and he will just eat it. Can't really see what's happening. I'm gonna look over here at the left side again. Usually, there's not this many mistakes happening at once, and that's just because y'all are so new. And it will get better over time. Y'all won't be like so helpless at some point. This guy and this guy really aren't playing together. It's just kind of two duels. Ideally, these two players are like playing off of one another, and they're trying to pressure the other opponent, not necessarily put themselves in between everybody. You know what I mean? You don't want to be here. You just want to be winding up at the other person to apply pressure.
Give your
And
teammate room, but like look for those switches and stuff. Yeah.
well, you have to be careful, right? Because you can make a switch, and even if you get the hit off of the switch, if you do not commit fully to the momentum of your swap, if you do not hit this guy and continue moving this way, then you are stuck in between them and you can't see anything and you're just losing, right? So that kind of goes back to you can make the swap, but you have to be sure that you have a route out of the swap. Does that make sense? This has kind of devolved a little bit into separate fights.
It all just kind of broke off into like 1v1s, kind of.
It did, and a lot of that goes back to the riposte sentiment too, because if you are just riposting, you're going to be more likely to use dual footwork and then to just like spread out, you know what I mean? Or just to like not look around and see what your teammates are doing. So like if you're ever watching like a really high tier VOD or like you're watching good teams play this game, you'll notice that like it takes kind of a while for team play to devolve into just duels, you know what I mean? Just because like everybody's actively looking for a team play advantage as opposed to just like looking for duels. Because this isn't Europe, like that's just kind of the sentiment that everybody in the United States is taken, or the NA is taken, is that like team play should be the priority, and not just like handshaking the duel.
Individual duels, yeah.
Same thing with this guy. He's in a hard position. He has to look at 3 different players here, but like he is also in a position where he has to be like a little bit more aware. So this guy being this close is really rough because he can't like see this guy and this guy and this guy.
Yeah, that's right.
This guy also kind of baited engage a little bit, and he wasn't playing off of his teammate. So like if you're gonna play 2-1-2, I encourage you to play with each other. I could sit here and like I could nitpick like this entire thing. But I think I'm gonna stop just going over this because I'm seeing a lot of the same mistakes, and I have a feeling that you'll kind of get the idea of what I was talking about. Essentially, everything that I've talked about in the past hour could be fixed. Like, could fix all these problems that you're having right now, and all of these.
I think there's.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next map. I'm gonna move on to the next map.
I think there's, like you said, I think there's a lot of good feedback from that, but We did progressively improve, I think, as well.
Oh, toilet bowl. Holy shit. Toilet bowl. Let's fucking go.
That
That's
one
okay.
was probably the worst one of them, but there were other ones that were really good.
Yeah.
So 3-2 counters toilet bowl pretty easily, right? In my opinion, it does. Because the whole point of toilet bowl is that you are moving to stack. It goes back to like, okay, I'm gonna ask you if you want to hear me go into detail about why this is good, or if you would rather just like me talk about the match
No,
exclusively.
I want your input. Absolutely, go ahead, please.
Does everybody else care? Because that's only 2 people. I don't want everybody else to feel like if y'all are here to take something away from the macro.
It's good.
Yeah.
Script, you're not gonna start crying,
I
right?
mean,
You're good,
you're
Script?
more than welcome to go in depth about it.
Okay.
So if we want to go into like detail about like meta macro, toilet bowl got fleshed out a long time ago. Or it got like kind of, it's very neutral. If everybody agrees to the toilet bowl, it's like it's fine. But if one team decides to split, like 2 people in one direction, 3 people in the other direction, or even 2 people in one direction, 1 person in the middle, and 2 people in another direction, like 2 and 2. If they decide to do that, then toilet bowl just loses immediately. Because toilet bowl is a form of grouping, and I'm going to go back to like what I was talking about earlier with Wumbo. I don't know if y'all remember me talking about it, but Wumbo is a way that you can stack pressure by playing on top of each other and using your momentum and initiative to capitalize on like a player that's out of position, right? Or like to try to like use all of that aggression to make somebody make a mistake. Toilet bowl is really, it's like it tries to do that, but it doesn't do it very well because nobody is stacked on top of each other. So if everybody's in a line like this, then a spread fight will just win because they have to continue using their momentum. They have to continue moving in one direction in order for it to still be a toilet bowl. But they're not stacking pressure on top of each other. At max, you are getting 1 player stacking pressure on top of 1 other player, right? Because they're all in a line. Like no players are going to be stacked behind each other. So you're not able to successfully like be very aggressive and be very like use all of that momentum and initiative to really capitalize on an advantage. You're not able to do it just because you don't have the resources for it. You just don't. You don't have the teammates to back you up. So, I didn't even talk about this. This is so important. I'm not even going to talk about what I was talking about because it completely nullifies what I'm about to say. So, in regards to 2-on-2, right? Like if you notice that you are playing, if you notice, this is so important. Please listen to this. If you are noticing that they are grouping like this and you don't want to group and you want to split, you need to understand the difference between strong side and weak side. I don't know if y'all have ever heard these terms before. Green Swampy might have.
I
Rex
haven't
might
heard
have.
of strong side.
Yeah,
and weak
I've heard
side.
of all of this pretty
Okay.
thoroughly.
So strong side, weak side is very important. So I'm gonna go back to my I'm gonna go back to my my tool. Can y'all see it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna go back to Mushpit. Okay. Strong side, weak side, super important to like a very fundamental idea of split macro. You don't have to be spread out across the map. It doesn't really matter how far apart you are. But like if we'll say that they're doing Wumbo, we don't even have. We'll say that they're doing like the best form of grouping. We'll say that they're doing W. Okay. You have people that are grouped together and they are pushing a side. So how do you react to that, or how do you respond to it if you decide that you want to group? How do you respond to that if you decide that you want to spread? So what you should be doing, right, is you should be understanding and you should be well aware of what side this team is pushing. So like if red team decides that they want to push left because that is the decision that they have made, you as the split fight are reacting to their decision to do that. You have conceded all of your ability to play proactively because you have decided that you want to split, and that's totally okay. This is viable. I'm not saying that this is like not good because this is objectively very good. You have decided that you want to split, so they're grouping and they push left. So that tells these people on the left here, and even maybe this guy if he wants to, if they decide that they push left and then go right. But for the sake of this group of people on the left side of the map here, that should tell them if they notice that these people are moving to the left side of the map, that they are the target. They're where red team wants to be. So they need to not be there. They need to run away. That makes this side of the map weak side because they are absorbing all of the pressure from red team. They are the group focus of what red team wants. That makes them weak side. Okay. And that makes this side strong side because they are pushing all of their momentum and all of the initiative back into the ass end of red team, right? So it is strong side, your blue team being y'all, it is your strong side's prerogative and it is their goal, their win condition to kill the group and to make sure that they get a pick before the weak side does, right? Weak side is objectively losing like every single time against grouping. But if blue team plays this correctly, they will understand that this is weak side. This left side will back up, or they will concede initiative. They'll still wind up, right? But they won't run into this side to give this side more time to engage, right? So if we go back to circle theory, this is objectively better for blue team because they have an L shape. They have momentum. They can wrap this way, and red team has to keep going forward. They cannot stop. If they stop, then they just get wrapped, right? So the only option they have is to continue moving forward, and then they have to split in between everybody, and it's just a mess for red team. But this is objectively losing because red team loses all vision here, and blue team has all of the vision in the world. So on paper, that is how you are supposed to play. Like split macro is you understand strong side, weak side. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. That's the first time I'm seeing that. Interesting.
Right. That is very, very important. And you can apply that even in like 2-1-2, right? So like if I could even apply this to like to this map too. Like let's say y'all are doing 2-1-2, y'all are split macro because y'all have engaged separately, y'all have decided that you don't want to play together. And they decide that they want to group push aside. I'll even send that these two over here. I'll say that like they have a 2v2 down here. This is an even fight. Red team has decided that they want to group push into one side of the map, right? So that should tell these people that they have more numbers on the enemy team than you have teammates, right? These people understand that this is objectively losing for a couple turns of tempo. This guy will come eventually, but this is not good for however many turns of tempo. So they have an option, right? They can move into this fight and they can try to take initiative away from it. Same thing with
back to a choke, right?
They could do that. They could also concede. They can also fall back into the choke, right? Or they could just hold S. They don't even have to get all the way to the choke. But they could
open it up. Okay.
They could just open it up, right? They can just give space because they understand that they are weak side. Since there are more enemy opponents than there are teammates, they will give, and then that gives this middle guy an option. He can commit to this 3v3, and he can make the claim that this fight is going to be better and will win faster because they have the sandwich, right? This is an L shape. This is good. Or this guy can make the decision he understands like, okay, my teammates know that they are weak side. And they know that they are going to be losing, so they can fall back into the choke, and I trust them. And I'm going to go this way, and I'm just going to go fight. I'm going to go fight this fight because I don't think that these guys are paying attention. And then they can take this 3v2 and then trade the 3v2s.
Gotcha.
But the difference, I don't know if y'all can see the difference between these 3v2s. Who's winning in this fight between blue team and red team? Blue team, exactly. Yeah. Does that kind of make sense why blue team is?
Because 3 at the bottom, you're gonna get that pick there, and they're just gonna obliterate that other guy and then move upward. Yeah.
Exactly right. And so it's not even guaranteed that like these two will live throughout the entire 3v3. They will just definitely live longer than the two down here. Right. And so this choke is so like losing for red team. Like they will never, given that blue team,
the blue team has a better position because they can hold that choke. If they've got a better chance of living long enough for the blue team to kill those two bottom red guys. Yeah.
Exactly right. And it's very important that this guy is like, if he understands like this is all happening at the same time. All of the things that I've been explaining, like all of the decisions that I've been like kind of laying out in front of you step by step are happening all at once, right? So you will not have like that much time to think about it. You will just recognize the pattern of, oh, this is a 3v2 as this person. I mean,
like you said, do the math, you know?
Right. Do the math. Right. I mean, like you see the math, you see a 3v2, you go this way or you commit. That's the decisions that you have as this middle player. Everybody else kind of has like, this is the only position in this map exclusively. I mean, like right now, this is the only position that has like, has a decision to make or an option between one thing or another. everybody else as like a set thing that they were going to be doing the entire time.
That's
Right.
awesome. I'm glad you went over that. That's a really nice explanation of that for me.
Thank you. Yeah. So this is like I would put your most like positionally minded player here. It's not an easy position to play. This is also the position that tends to call the most is the middle player, and I'm using CD Contraband as like a guideline for a lot of this explanation. But you can do this like on Garrison too. Here, you can do this on this map too. Same concept. You can split the fights like so. A lot of honestly, Garrison is one of the more complicated maps in my opinion, and I
We
don't think
learned
that
that
there's
the
a
hard way. I think this is probably where where we really struggled the most. This was also the finals. This was kind of the end of the night. I think we yeah.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of different and honestly like this should be good news for y'all because y'all can play this however you want and if something isn't working you just move in a different direction and go to another side of the tent. So like if they're stacking 5 people on one side of the tent, you can put 2 people over here and you can play like this. And you can try to um poke and prod and see like they might push through this way. So that would make what would that make these 3 players if they all push through here? That would make them weak side, exactly. So that makes these 2 players right here, that makes them strong side for blue team. And blue team has to get a pick before red team does, and that's kind of the fight. That's very simple, not very complicated. Blue team gets a pick before red team does, right? These 3 players here know that like they're being pushed, so they should not. On paper they should not be engaging, right? But what's more important is that they just don't die, right? So if these 3 players here decided that they want to try something, if they know that like this is like round 6, okay, and that red team has done this every single time, and they know that blue team here is going to start like they're just going to default macro. Does it kind of like do y'all know what I mean when I say like y'all are like AFKing the macro? Does that kind of make sense? You're not paying attention. You are just doing what has been happening from rounds ago, and you are going to assume that that's going to keep happening because that's what the enemy team has done for the past rounds. Does that make sense? So you're not like that's fine if they continue doing it, but if y'all for whatever reason, if these 3 here as weak side, if y'all have like held S every round, and they know that you're gonna hold S, if y'all just decide to like, what happens if we just hold W one round and just see what happens and see how they react to it? The control is now in your favor because now they are reacting to you. If you notice that they are getting lazy and that they are not paying attention to your decision making, right? So this is where like the beauty of mix-ups come in with your macro because whenever you start to kind of like put all of these things in tandem with one another with circle theory and decision making and micro and macro, and you kind of wrap your head around these ideas, these central ideas, you can start to play with them a little bit more and they don't have to be fundamentals anymore and you can start breaking them and you can start like, okay, well maybe our strong side should be less aggressive and maybe our weak side should kind of be like a little bit more aggressive so that way we can just see how our opponent responds, right? So this is where the macro starts to become like a little bit more nuanced and you can start playing with it a little bit more. Whenever you start doing mix-ups and you start doing things based off of what you think the enemy might do or doing things based off of what the enemy has done previously, and you start putting patterns together between like, okay, well, this player is getting rolled every single round on this side of the map, so that's what we should play for. Because this guy is going to die and it's only a matter of time, right? That's like some ideas that you can start
Just
thinking
like
about.
focusing the weakest link.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
strategy. If you decide that that's what you want to do, like there's totally nothing wrong with that. I don't think that that's like the super consistent way to play the game at the highest level because like you're depending on your
Well, I
mechanics
mean,
a
at
little
the
bit
end
more.
of the
But
day, it's a numbers game. So if you've got the numbers advantage, I mean, it could be worth it.
yeah, it really just depends. And so I think my point is that you should not be so tied down to macro as rules, and you should look at it more as like guidelines. Guidelines that you can follow and you can break what's up. So this is what the position that y'all were kind of running into was like this.
Yeah.
Okay. So if y'all are lined up like this, if y'all are lined up how I have it exactly right now, like this is really bad for blue team because you can't. This like your vision is stretched like 100. It's stretched 180 degrees. Like you have to look, like what is it? 90 degrees to your left and 90 degrees to your right. You have to look at opposite directions. You have to look in 180 degrees opposite directions to see everything, right? So that's kind of why like whenever you're not grouping, it's best to kind of line up like this. That make sense? You're giving your players the most vision, right? These players are in front. They could even be further back. It really doesn't matter. But you just want to be in a position where you can kind of see like everything, right? And you're not like strained by having to turn left and right so hard that you can't see. So like this guy, like being here would be bad. So he would have to be like here, right? He would want to be further back like this. So like if we're talking about like a positional response to this, can somebody like shoot out some ideas of like, now that we're just looking at it on paper, like what we think would be good here, knowing what we know now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was thinking maybe blue should push forward and try to get a
Sure.
wrap.
So
you
what's a
know?
response to that? If we put everybody here, if we're chasing the mole rat, what's the response whenever we see the mole rat run away? Because his team is not going to do nothing, right? Like they're gonna want to
fall back, try to turn into a line fight.
If we do that, then it's kind of just like degenerated into what we had before, right? It's the same position if we do that. So like what I would recommend, here's what I would recommend, okay? The reason that the rat is so oppressive is because he does a lot of damage and he's also away from his team, and he's most of the time they're lighter armor just so that they can move faster. But objectively, a rat in a line fight is not good. So what you can do, I like the idea of pushing the rat out. I like the idea of pushing this rat out and following him until he gets to his team, and now you have put him in a position where he's in a line fight as a rat, right? So this is called pushing the rat out. Oops. Like if everybody's moving, I can't move everybody at once. I wish I could. If everybody has kind of gotten to this position where they have pushed the rat out and you're chasing him, right, and everybody's kind of following this way, the rat isn't. This is now an even fight, but this guy just has less health because everybody else does more damage to the rat, right? Does that kind of make sense? Obviously, it's not going to be like as concrete as this because these people are going to react and they're going to want to move in accommodation to this guy moving away. But that's good for y'all because y'all have initiative over where you decide and how you move the direction of the fight. So it's okay that these people are moving because like if for whatever reason you notice, well, I'll throw everybody back over here. If you notice that these people, if you notice that like you want to push the rat out and that's what you've been doing for a couple rounds, and that these people get comfortable with it and they try to pre-fire your decision, this guy, the second you see this guy's back, everybody is just like coming this way, you know what I mean? And they want to like save their rat. You can just turn. You can just go this way, and this rat is still moving this way. He has to stop all of his momentum, and he can either commit to this, but then he's back in the line fight. So he's probably going to move back this way in order to like, do his job and be a positional nuisance. Y'all can just turn this way, and now you make your front of attack, you just make it this wrap right here. This is where everybody moves. You move to this side. Right?
Hey,
Does that kind of make
Molly,
sense?
I think we've got another example that we might want to go over. Scrimp just put an example in the no mic text channel if you want to check that in Discord.
So I guess your question is, where does that left side guy go?
Yeah, should
Okay.
that left side then join and blow up the mall
So this
rat
is
more?
like the beauty of like
Right.
you get to make there is not like one thing that is going to be better than something else. Okay.
Okay.
It is going to be purely just like what you decide to do as a team and what you feel more comfortable. If you think that you are mechanically better than these players and you feel confident in your mechanics and you decide that that's what you want your win condition to be, I'll set it up the way that you have it set up here. You have the option of taking this duel with this rat, and if you think that you're going to win it, then take it and then let this 4v4 win, and then everybody can play around this duel. And that's, if you want to do that, that's fine. Like there's literally nothing wrong with that. That is totally okay. Or if you decide that you're not super confident in holding this rat down and you want to push him out, then at the beginning of the round, instead of handshaking this way, then everybody goes this way and they push the rat out. And everybody will play off of that. Or like there's so many options.
Realistically, it just at the end of the day, the end result's the same, where you're just pushing the rat back to go and rejoin the rest of his team.
So that's the idea, right? Is like anybody that's out of position, you want to put them back in position. Or you don't even have to do that. You could even here's what you could do if you want to get like fancy. You can send 2 people this way and 3 people over here, right? So now what you've done is you've put this guy in a position to make decisions, right? So if we go back to like the Steedy, the Contra position, like if we think about that middle guy that was right here, right? That guy had a lot of leeway with the decision making. You're putting this guy in that same position, right? Like this guy gets to just make a decision now. So he can code this way. Like he puts these people on weak side. They know that this is going to be a 4v3. The numbers are just up for red team. If red team commits to this, then these people go this way, and then this guy can take this 1v2, or as these people commit this way, he can cut through these boxes and he can go this way. Like he has a lot of options. Like there's so many things that you can do. And if like even if like these guys decide that they want to join this way and they want to help their friend out because they know that he's getting 1v2, then you play off of that, and then you just like go as wide as you can to give your team the most room. And everybody kind of like plays this way. You could even like have these two players commit here, try to like force somebody to make a decision on this side, so that way you can make a play over here and like send this guy around maybe. There's so many things you can do. You can,
But you also have to have that communication as well. So I think that's why it's so nice to have you here to explain the strong side, weak side first, so it kind of plants that seed, like you said, so then we can recognize these scenarios and then say, okay, I'm going to call out, we're going to do this, so that way we can react and then take back control of the fight. So that's why I think this is just really beneficial right here, Motley.
Yeah.
That's just great. Thank you.
It really does help a lot, because definitely I think what we struggled with is making decisions upon engagement. We would engage, and like I said, the situation with the mall rat, we were just like, okay, should we go attack him or should we go assist the rest of the team? And by the time we had already made our decision, fights had already happened, people had already died, and
part of that is I think we were looking to Thrax for answers, but Thrax was getting tied down, and he doesn't have eyes on the back of his head, so we weren't able to think for ourselves.
right.
And I don't want to speak for them because, like I said, I wasn't in this particular match. I was in the one previous. But I was finding myself where I was, like you said, I wasn't really able to make that decision because I didn't really even understand strong side, weak side. So just having that is just that's really changed and opened some doors. I think,
most
Motley.
definitely.
Yeah, like I said, there's not a right or wrong decision, especially on Garrison is a super dynamic map. And if something isn't working, then you have a lot of room to change what's going on, because that's just how the map plays out. Some maps you don't really have that much of an option. Like if I pulled up Mosh Pit, like objectively on open maps. And when I say open, I mean like there's no obstacles in the way. Like Contraband's not an open map. Garrison's not an open map. New Alden, not an open map. So Mosh Pit and Chester are like the two most notable open maps, right? If they decide that they're gonna 2-1-2 and they want to split macro, you're kind of in a position where like if you don't know how to group, and then you almost have to. Because hold on. If they do this and then you're trying to like 3-2 or something, it goes back to that same middle position. This guy just gets so much room to make a decision on like you are now reacting to this middle guy. If you're trying to play this close, like you're trying to if your 3 is here and they want to push this side, that makes these 2 weak side, right? Push this way. This guy has the decision. He can go this way, or you can cut into this 3v3 and stay if he thinks it's better, and you can do that. So you kind of have to like play out here with this guy, and like you kind of have to like plan around that, and like if you can make decisions to group this way and like fight for this edge over here, but if there isn't an edge and they go to the wall, you can't go further than a wall, right? So like there is no play to make on paper over here. There's only a mechanical advantage. That's it. There's only a mechanical fight happening over here. Because you can't wrap a wall. You can't do it. So the play is always going to be on the opposite side of the wall because you can wrap on that side, right? Like if I just like remove these players over here, if like let's just say it's a 33, like after you get to the wall, there's no play over here. And when I say play, I mean win condition, a positional win condition. Okay, like there is no positional fight over here on this side. Not that you can't fight it, because you can, but all of your pressure after you get to the wall, if you want to play positionally, should be directed this way. It should be like now everybody backs up and goes to the left here. Try to fight for that edge right here, because there's an edge here. You can wrap on the left side. You can wrap on that side. But that's like I'm like getting so deep into like theory that it's not. You will never see this like at this level or even at the highest level. Sometimes like a lot of people at the highest level will in a 3v3 they will opt for a fight that looks a little bit more like this, especially on open maps. They'll opt for a fight where they just move forward. They won't really fight for edges. I mean, they definitely do. They will. It will sometimes. It kind of looks like this, right? Kind of ends up like that. Purely just because like the whole point of a 3v3 is kind of just to be, it's a mechanical fight anyways, and so like if you're fighting for an edge over here, like I'm not saying you can't do this, but I am saying that's just not like how 3v3s play out, like between Syndicate and Div and Terry and all the West Coast teams and stuff like that. Just because like you practice 3v3s for a different reason, and so like if you're at the wall like this and it's like really boring and you don't see it that much, and like objectively this is not much different than like this fight over here being like this. I'm kind of rambling. There's not really that much point to what I'm saying. I hope y'all kind of understand what I'm saying though. This is a better mechanical practice fight, so like that's what you're going to see 3v3s happening. And you can definitely, there's a lot more room to fight for initiative here, and it's not as even of a fight. So you get a little bit more variety with your engagement. I hope that makes sense.
I'm following along. I think that was really beneficial for a lot of people, Motley. I think that was good, even if they couldn't join us. I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm
we
sure
had
y'all
this
could
recorded so we
regurgitate.
can share this. This is some good information.
Oh, I wanted to touch on this. Y'all were talking about how y'all couldn't really, y'all were relying on Thrax to kind of make some of the decisions, or like at least provide some of the foundation.
Yeah.
But you can't. So this is where y'all are going to be better as a team if you are all coordinating the macro together, as opposed to not that there can't, usually there is only one person shot calling, right? So like it makes sense that you were looking to Thrax for like go this direction, or like let's do this. But generally speaking, if everybody is coordinating and everybody has an understanding of what Mordhau macro is like, and they all understand the ideas that are in place, they can give input on what they think needs to be done, right? So that those are the best teams that are all on the same page, and the best teams that are all actively improving to get better at the game together, and also like improving individually, of course, but they're all looking for a solution to the problem as opposed to just like relying on one person. Those are the teams that like really get better. You know what I mean? And that really do better than other teams. That's how I got better. That's how I kind of got into a higher tier in Mordhau. Because I started playing this game late relative to some of the best players in the game, and I had to break into that scene like after they'd already done it, right? So I didn't grow into it. Like I had to get into it, right? And I did that because I was on a team called Race Car, and it was as a group full of people, and they all wanted to get better at the game, and we all wanted the exact same thing, and we would spend hours VOD reviewing, and we would spend hours trying to get better at this game, and we would duel forever, and we would team play, and we would 2v2, and we would scrim. We would have 2 scrims every night, and we would start at 9 EST, and we wouldn't end till like midnight, and that was including the VOD review and the scrim and shit like that. And
But I think it was good for what you said, how you had previously mentioned, not trying to force other people to play.
Of course not. No,
I like how you mentioned how we all wanted to play. We all wanted to get better at the game. So keep in mind, for the comp team members is.
Oh, of course,
I don't want anybody to feel like they're pressured into what they're doing.
No, of course not. Nobody should. Nobody should feel like they have to play. But I do think that this is an important precedent. Now, I'm not your team lead, and I'm not on this team, and so I'm not going to tell you what you should do and how you should run your team.
Of course. Sure.
However, I do think if your goal as a competitive team is to get better, and it is to fight better teams, and it is to improve, then it should be a precedent that the players that are improving and the players that are showing up and the players that are consistent and that want to get better, even if they're not the best player in the team, if those players are consistent and they're showing up, they are given playtime, and that they are given priority in these NACL matches, and that they are shown that their effort does not go out of sight, out of mind, because
those who put in the time,
right, and they're doing it because they want to, and they're not doing it because they feel like they have to, right? So I think that like it's important to keep in mind that everybody is replaceable, including me too. Like that's the precedent on Syndicate right now, is that It doesn't matter how good any of us are. Like if me, Coco, or Paul are shitting the bed, then like we're getting subbed. Like it's gonna happen, and we'll sub ourselves. It's not even like somebody's telling us to. Granted, like we get precedent over everybody else, but like it's still a team game. You know what I mean? So it's important to keep in mind that everybody is replaceable, and then if you do not put the effort in, even if you don't want to, because you're not feeling it, like if everybody's just getting better and you're not, then there are going to be players who are going to be they're just going to have more opportunities because they are getting better at the game. And so that's like that is the mindset that I have come up with playing Mordhau, because those are the types of teams that I've been on, and those teams have been super successful. Okay, so I'm gonna like lay it out just so we're all on the same page, because this is like a very important distinction that I don't think is emphasized on enough, but this is also just my opinion. Macro is the overarching plan, so like 2-1-2, 3-2, and like the goal that you're trying to accomplish with your positioning, purely positional. Like that's what macro is. Micro is the decisions that you make in order to achieve that goal, right? So like holding W out of spawn is a decision, winding up on engage is a decision, feint to parrying out of a swing or not feeding is a decision, right?
What do you mean by winding up on engage? Like starting on engage?
Starting a swing on engage. You need to
Okay.
you should never concede in initiative. But that's not, let me finish my point.
Okay.
The making a decision in order to accomplish a goal is micro. But mechanics is how well you are at performing that decision exclusively, right? So like you might make the decision to drag and it might be correct, but you might not be good enough at dragging yet to successfully do it. So your ability to perform the action is equally as important as your ability to make the decision, right? So like how good you are at the drag, or how good you are at the cancel, and how consistent you are at these things is mechanics, right?